I walk through the shadow of death left to fear. This is a journey through the halls of hell.
Yes people, what is good? I am BA, back once again with a little review for you guys. Now this week I want to talk about the Mandalorian TV show. Star Wars has basically been struggling since the 90s. It's become retroactively popular on YouTube to act as if people didn't absolutely hate the prequel movies, but yes, the prequel movies are bad, boring and terrible for a myriad of reasons. And then unfortunately the same can be said for the sequel trilogy that Disney made after they acquired the property from George Lucas. However, in amongst all that chaos comes along the Mandalorian TV series, and it focuses on a group of people that the main Star Wars films never really explored. So if you're not aware of what Mandalorians are, it's basically space Spartans. If you can imagine an entire planet that operated like a Spartan society that trained every single person on that planet to be a warrior, and then they acquired jobs throughout the galaxy as bounty hunters and mercenaries, etc. because of how good they are as soldiers. So we're following this one bounty hunter called Din Djarin, and in the first episode, what seems to be him going to do a regular bounty becomes interesting when he's told that his target is 50 years old, but it is revealed to be still an infant in the same species as Yoda, who lived until he was 800 or 900 years old, I believe, so it fully explains why this 50-year-old would still look like an infant. And from there, we get this storyline of a brilliantly trained Mandalorian bounty hunter now protecting this infant from all the other bounty hunters that are coming to kill it. And that is the basic premise of season 1. And why this is genius is because Jon Favreau, who created the show, thought what was genius about what George Lucas did with the original Star Wars. And what he did was take Japanese samurai and ninja culture and then repurpose it with a new aesthetic in space so it became fresh again. And although he drew inspiration from many things, the basic premise of Star Wars is essentially space samurais and space ninjas. The Hidden Fortress was famously the plot structure he used for A New Hope. So Jon Favreau has went back to traditional Japanese cinema and thought what is still there that George Lucas didn't draw inspiration from. And of course there's a famous series of movies in Japan called Lone Wolf and Cub, which were re-edited into the movie Shogun Assassin, which is basically the premise of The Mandalorian. It's about an older samurai who has to venture the world with his son in a carriage and defend himself against assassins. Jon Favreau obviously looked at that and thought this is a perfect thing which we could put the Star Wars repurposing on and make it fresh again, and oh my god, it works brilliantly. This show also had some of the most impressive special effects and set pieces I had ever seen on a television series when it first aired, and it was partially due to the technology they used to film it. A thing called the volume, which is basically LED lights in 360 degrees, which you can put backgrounds on and edit in real time. So for example, if they're setting up an actor in a shot and they don't like the mountain in the background over his right shoulder, they can manually enlarge it, shrink it, change it to day or night, and all these effects will realistically reflect off the actual actors as if they are in the scene because of this new technology. It is absolutely incredible, and even if you don't want to watch the Mandalorian TV series, you should definitely watch the short featurette they made about the volume technology, because it's breathtaking. Now, I don't want to spoil too many plot points in case you haven't seen it, but needless to say, it is discovered that this child is very important. There's a reason why many people want to kill the child, and there's a reason why there are other people out there looking to protect the child. And another thing I actually like about this show is you don't always get a major plot progression week by week. Some weeks it's just a small individual story which is wrapped up by the end of the episode. I would say structurally this is very similar to Kung Fu and Mr. In-Between, and the fact that sometimes you can just pluck a Mandalorian episode out at random and enjoy it as a standalone thing. However, there are major plot beats from time to time which you do need to watch the full series to appreciate. Not only that, but as the show progresses, again, I'm trying to word this in a way that would entice someone who hasn't seen it but also not drop spoilers, but if you were a fan of the original Star Wars, sort certain characters will come into play who are straight out of the original movies, delivering some of the best fan service ever. And this is going to be a really controversial take, especially to people who were alive when the original trilogy came out in theatres, because I wasn't alive to experience how groundbreaking it was during its theatrical run back in the 70s. But I will say, just standing back and objectively critiquing it from a script perspective, an acting and editing perspective, or plot progression perspective, I have to say The Mandalorian is probably the single best piece of Star Wars media ever, even over the original trilogy. I know that's so controversial and sacrilegious, but it is truly my take. If I was to literally sit and watch a single piece of Star Wars media, what would bring me the most enjoyment? It's got to be The Mandalorian. Now, some people didn't like season 3 of The Mandalorian, and I do think it has two of the weakest episodes of the entire show, but I also think that the finale episodes are so epic it more than makes up for it, and I still think overall it's a pretty strong season. And Disney have finally realised where their cash cow now lies, because The Mandalorian and Grogu are getting a cinematic movie. It is currently being filmed or has been filmed, and coming from someone who watched and loved this from the very first day the first episode aired on Disney Plus, I cannot wait to see them get their time in the sun with a full major motion picture. And as long as Jon Favreau's writing and directing it, I've got faith it's going to be great, because he seems to be one of the only good things Disney have going for them right now, and if I were them, I would give him full control of the Star Wars franchise. So yeah, in summary, forget about those weird disjointed sequel films, forget about the boring Trade Federation, trade route blockade plotline from the prequel movies. If you want to experience Star Wars and something that genuinely feels like Star Wars, you will never find better than The Mandalorian. And while I don't rank it in my serious dramas when it comes to my favourite TV shows, because it's more of an action-adventure piece, it is easily one of my top 10 favourite television series of all time. So if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favour and check it out. So yeah, that was my quick review of The Mandalorian. Until next week, like, subscribe, comment, come and join the Patreon gang and help support what I do. I've been BA. Peace.